I am now recording. For those of us who are just joining us, we are doing some practice in the structured data testing tool. We had intended to start with breakout rooms, but we've changed. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And we are in the schema page for organization. And I've scrolled towards the bottom where I get a list of more specific types, because we're thinking about marking up WSU Vancouver as an organization. But as we look through here, we should probably want to mark it up as educational organization. And you can do this yourselves on another one as you're going through. If you're not sure if there's a more specific one, after you scroll to the bottom of all the item props, there's this more specific types. So let's choose educational organization. And then, because we want to be thorough, let's go to the bottom of this, and it gets more specific yet again. We are a college or university. And yet again, let's go down to the bottom of this one. And there are no more subtypes. So I'm going to mark up WSU Vancouver as a college or university. So I'm going to grab that out of the URL, and I'm going to go back to our structured data tool, and I'm going to say the item type for WSU Vancouver, nested in this span, is a college or university. Now, if I test that up, we can see that Nicholas Schiller is my name. I have an MLS. I work for WSU Vancouver, which is an organization, which is a college or university. And I also work for the Creative Media and Digital Culture program at WSU. So that looks good so far. And I work for the library and I work for the CMDC. Library is in here, CMDC is in here. College or university is recognized as WSU Vancouver. Okay. So continuing down, this located in library VLib160F, I'm going to make that a little more clear. I'm going to, I have to look this up every time, but the address of our campus is this. I don't know what it is, but I know it's in the footer. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, I am going to take care of that, but I have something in the background that I need to take care of really quickly. So I'm going to be back in 30 seconds. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, is anybody on a mic working on the recipes on a recipe page?
Yeah, I'm working on one. I got mine pulled up right now.
Okay, so I'm trying to do a span item prop for cook time, but I'm looking at the schema page and it wants it in ISO 8601 duration, and that looks like a complicated code. So I need to hide it in the tag.
So what you want to do is right after cook time, you want to put content equals, and then in parentheses, PT, and then whatever your time is, and then minutes or hours. So put either M or H, and then close out the tag. If you like scroll all the way down to the end of the schema page, and you look at the example recipe that they have, and you click on like what it looks like with the markup in it, it'll show you how the format is supposed to be.
Awesome. Okay, that totally like got me going in the perfect direction, and I didn't know there was an example at the bottom of that page. Thank you.
as sometimes happen, the conversations that happen when I'm out of the room are more useful than when I'm in the room. Were you guys going in a good direction, or do you want me to pick up again?
No, totally. We talked about using ISO 6180 timestamps and just like in the context of recipes and
Yes.
yeah, and how to like do that information when you don't have that specific ISO formatting on your page.
Yes.
So
So if we were trying to say, wait 10 minutes, if this was on the page, we could say, see if I remember how to do this off the top of my head. And it's not going to read because it's not in an item scope here, but
right.
I think it's just duration. And then, and I'm guessing, I'm going to have to look it up, but PT10M. And let's see. So if we look up and I'm not sharing that. Hang on.
We were able to see the schema page.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Well, let's see if I can not fix that. Usually it's highlighted in green. So it's schema page for duration.
Yeah, we can see that.
All right. And so as was mentioned, what I would do here, because I don't know it off the top of my head, is I would look for, let's see, use 8601 duration form. That's what we need. It's going to explain how it works, but I'm looking for an example. And usually those are at the bottom of the page, but I know there's one on recipe. So if we click in here, look at the microdata. No, they don't mark up the time. It just says bake for at least. Okay, here we go. They mark up prep time and cook time, and they do use the content equals. And so the ISO 8601 information is here. It's meta in that it doesn't appear on the page. And I mean, that could be a span as well as a meta, but that's how they recommend to do it. All right, we have about 15 minutes left. Do you want to go into small groups, or do you want to continue to go over this in the structured data testing tool? This may be helpful, but I can promise you that the most helpful thing is for you to do this yourselves and dig in and get it to work or get it to not work. So for our remaining 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Anthony's got a question in the chat.
Okay, let me get to where I can read that. Anthony, if you did want to mark up the slogan, and that's a good thing to do, that's how you would do it. Use a different item type. Each item scope has exactly one item type. And so if you were going to change to a separate item type, you would need to embed a new item scope in there. So in this case, I would use an item type. If slogan is a property of home construction business, and let's check that out. We're looking for home construction business. And we're looking for slogan, which should be roughly alphabetical. Slogan, yes. If there's a slogan on the page, you would mark that slogan up in a span or a div, however you're doing it, block or inline, where item prop equals slogan. Then you close that, or you end that tag, put in the text of the slogan, and then close the span, and it should be read by the structured data testing tool. Go back and see. So question is, if every item type needed to fulfill the criteria set by the structured data testing tool, I'm going to answer that by saying you cannot have an item type or an item property that doesn't belong to that specific item type. So when you open up an item scope and you say item type equals something, such as a home construction business or a person or a recipe, the properties that you have of that thing are limited to the ones that belong to that in the schema chart. Now, I'm not sure that answers the question that you asked. When you fill in that bit of code, it gives you a list of errors. So let's switch examples. Let's go back here. And we'll grab home and construction business from schema. I'm pulling it straight from the address bar. Okay, and then I'm going to say, we have the 356 construction company and we build stuff. So if I do a span item prop equals name, and then we close that span, and then a separate span item prop equals slogan, and let's spell it right and put all of our quotes in. And while I'm doing this, can someone check to see if name and slogan are capitalized? I can do that. Slogan is not capitalized. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so now that that is cleared, I'm going to search that. And what do we see? We have a home and construction business. Its name is correct. Its slogan is correct. It wants an image, an address, a price range, and a telephone number. Is that helpful, Anthony? Okay, let's go back here, and we can start to get rid of some of these by saying,
Nicholas, he put in a question in the chat.
So if you don't have those things, such as the address or whatnot, it depends on how much stuff you have for the project. If you're feeling like you don't have enough properties for it, you can just add these things to the code. Like I'm making up an address here. I don't even know if the zip code goes with anything else. But if I wanted to add that, I can just put that into the code. And pretend that it was on the original web page. And if I do that, I should resolve the address part. And I might say that price range, you know, who knows? Maybe I'm building a fence. Maybe I'm building an addition to the house. It doesn't make sense to do price range. You can call me for that. Or, but I can put in a telephone number.
What if there was something that said, call us for an estimate? Could that be something that would be price range?
I think so. I was thinking the same thing. So let's see what happens if see what it takes for that. Price range, call or email for a quotation mark that's in the wrong place. So we can do that. If this information isn't on your web page, you can put it there for this assignment. Or if it's your web page that you're working with, you can add it to your web page. But this stuff, that the words that will appear on the page, this is what you need to mark up. You might be tempted to add something that doesn't appear on the page, just mark up invisible information. That is strongly discouraged, because that's the sort of thing that people do to try and cheat or do black hat work with SEO. You put invisible stuff on the page that doesn't describe your web page at all, but is popular, to get people who are looking for the popular stuff to your page to make it look like you're more popular than you are. And then that ends up working against you in the long run.
Hey, Nicholas.
Yes.
What is the difference between using div and span?
In HTML, div, this is actually a good example of what I have on the screen. Div is what is known as a block element. So it's used to say this block of stuff, these several lines are a thing. Span is inline. So you would use span to mark up something that's inside one line, div to mark up something that's several lines. And folks who do more HTML than I do might have a more nuanced way of looking at it. But my basic usage is div is several lines, span is inside a line.
Thank you.
Okay, our time is ticking down. I strongly recommend that you guys spend some time doing this sort of thing. If you're working in the structured data testing tool, make sure that you save to a text editor. One thing to be absolutely strict about is do not use a word processor like Word or Google Docs or anything like that with code or for something like this. You will drive yourself absolutely batty. You'll get things like, if you put it in a word processor, it might change this quote to a slightly different quote that the code tool can't recognize. and then you will be very sad and angry that the testing tool doesn't see your obviously correct code as correct. And the reason it doesn't is because there's more than one kind of quotation mark, and the word processors like to screw with that. So please, for everyone's sanity, only use the text editor or this tool to do this. Does that make sense?
Hey, Nicholas, I'm using Sublime for my text editor. Is that okay?
It's absolutely okay. I find that most students prefer that, or at least students who are working on OS X Mac stuff like Sublime. I use BB Edit only because I used to use Text Wrangler, which was free, and then Text Wrangler went away, so I bought their improved product, BB Edit. But from what I can tell, people like Sublime. It does all the things, and you don't pay for it, so you shouldn't have to buy things.
Okay.
If you're working on Windows, you absolutely, like Anthony, should be using Notepad++. It's free. It does, well, you can use Notepad if you want to, but Notepad++, I started using Notepad++, I think in 1999, and it was great then. It's even better now, and it's free. Every so often, I'll send the guy $5 when he does an update because it's this great tool that everybody loves and makes the world better. Maybe there's better things out there. Maybe some folks are using Microsoft's coding suite, which I hear is really good, but Notepad++ is the way to go on Windows.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything else that I have left ambiguous, clear, uncovered? I'm going to try to grade all weekend long, so you should expect at least one assignment back, if not both, by the end of Sunday. If not, on Monday, you should thoroughly mock me, but that's not going to be the case because I'm going to get it done. Anyway, I'll stop talking so you can ask me your questions. Otherwise, go be safe and healthy. Have yourself one of those weekend things, even if you've forgotten what a week is. Do something nice for yourself. If you are, well, anyway, I could just go on, but basically, be happy, work hard, have fun.
Thank you, Nicholas. Have a good weekend.
You're welcome. You too. Pet Captain Buddy for me.
I will.
And I'm going to stop recording now.